Moses, chapter 8. Verses 1 through 3 reads as follows. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus hath made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God, sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh. As a title, I want to use the words, having you there makes a difference. Having you there makes a difference. Church, we serve a righteous God. We serve a righteous God. He always has been righteous, and he always will be righteous. The God that we serve, he is the standard of what goodness means. He is the standard of what it means to be correct, of what it means to be right. Y'all, he is perfection. He is the one who created man in his own image and after his likeness. Therefore, if he is a righteous God and he created man in his likeness, then the man that he created was just as righteous as God was himself. And because God and man in the beginning were both equally righteous, they were able to enjoy a fellowship, one with the other. And because they were in complete and total fellowship, they would be able, they were fit, they were able to spend eternity together. However, sin, church, sin made man unrighteous. Sin broke the fellowship that God and man had one with the other. And because of sin, man's spirit was separated from the God that he was to serve. And when the spirit is separated from the man, y'all, that is called spiritual death. Eternal separation from God. Therefore, the man had to live the rest of his physical life in a spiritually dead state, where he was to be eternally separated from God. However, if he wanted to live again, then he would have to become once again just as righteous as God was himself. And that's where the law was to come in. When we think of the law, the first one we think of is that which was given to Moses in the Ten Commandments. It was to be those things that man was to do in order to be in right standing with God. The problem is it had some challenges. Verse 3 in our text. Verse 3 in our text says this. It says, "For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God, sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh." There were some challenges with the law. There were some challenges. Let's start with the very first commandment. Let's just start at the beginning. First one, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." It's simple. It's quite to the point. God did not stutter when he said it. And what he's saying is that I want to have the highest priority in your life. I don't want you to put anybody or anything above me. Didn't he say later on, he said, "I am a jealous God"? And so what I want to have top billing in your life. I want to be number one. I want you to want me first. Despite the fact that he said that, when it came opportunities to worship him, some of them couldn't come do that because the football game was on. Some of them couldn't come and spend the time with him, serving him, worshiping him, giving to him the honor and the praise that he is due. Because Sunday is the only day that I really have to rest. It's the only day I get to sleep in. I'm saying there was a problem. Now, that's the only point I'm making. I ain't talking about y'all. I'm talking about them, way back then. The text said this. It said that what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh. Let me restate that for you. A simple restatement is this. What the law could not do, God did. What the law could not do, God did. Let me add a little flesh to it. Look, what the law could not do because of our flesh, God did through Jesus. I can add a little bit more flesh to it if you want to look. It says, what the law could not do because of the weakness of man, God did by sending his only begotten Son. What is it? What is it that the law couldn't do? What is it? What is it the law can do? The law could not restore our broken fellowship with God. It couldn't restore our broken fellowship with God, even enough to qualify us to spend eternity in heaven with him. There's a question that comes to mind then. Is heaven even really a worthwhile goal? I mean, it's a question that somebody really has to ask themselves. If you want to embark upon this Christian journey, then you got to ask yourself that question. Is this a goal that is even one that is worth? If you ask anybody, though, I mean, if you ask anybody, you can go out on the street and ask somebody, do you want to go to heaven? And you know what they're going to say? Yeah. Everybody will say it. Anybody can say it. Here's the thing about it. What I've learned and what I've observed with people over the course of time is that the reason that people say they want to go to heaven actually it changes as they mature in the Word. It does. It starts one place and then it matures And it changes as they mature in the Word. Watch this. Y'all will be honest. You don't want to answer this, but just keep it in your head. Most people, the original reason why they say they want to go to heaven is because they don't want to go to hell. That comes in, listen, look, I got two choices. And you asking me which one, I'll pick the good one. That's how people, if they're honest, that's what they only pick heaven because they don't want to go to hell. But watch this. As they begin to grow in the Word, as they begin to give God a little bit more of their time, as they give the Lord some more of their attention, the reason that they want to go to heaven changes right along with them as they mature. Because then the reason that they want to go to heaven is that they love Jesus. And they love Him so much that they want to spend eternity in His presence. Somebody may ask me, why? Why is it that you love Jesus so much? And it has taken me some time to get here. But I can say this. I have really learned through my own personal experience, through my relationship with Him, that just having Him there makes a difference. It's the difference between life and death. It's the difference between light and darkness. It's the difference between good and bad and happiness and sadness. It's the difference between joy and sorrow. Look, when I was at Ball State, it was early in my freshman year. I had just met Karen, I believe, at the time. And I recognized something, that being a student, you spend a lot of time sitting, and you'll go to class, and you'll come back and you eat lunch, and then you go to class, and you come back and you eat dinner. And then around midnight, you say, I think I'd like a midnight snack. And so you go out and you get something to eat. And over the course of doing that for a period of time, in the second semester, I started realizing that I was starting to be one of those people who was going to put on the freshman 15. And I recognized that. I said, well, listen, I need to do something. I need to become more active. So I decided what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to the gym, because you could go to the gym for free on campus. And so I went over there, and while I was there one day, I'm going and doing my little workout thing, and I see this young man walk in. He was from another country, but he came in there for the same reason that I did. He wanted to take care of his body. I mean, I just met this young girl. I wanted to look all buff and everything for her. Because if I'm gonna come proper. You know, I wanted to call back home and talk about me. And I'm sure he was there for somewhat of the same reason, something. And he was a kind of a wiry young man, just kind of thin. And I remember this. I don't remember a whole lot else happening, but I remember this, that I watched him as I was doing my thing. I kept my eye on him, and he just kind of wandered around from one piece of equipment to the next and to the next. And then he would try out some things, and he went over to the bench press, and it had some weight on it already. And y'all know what a bench press is, where you lay on your back, have the weight up above you on the bar, and you bring it down, and you'll press it up. And he laid back on that bench press, and he took that weight off the stand. And when he bent his elbows, the weight It just went straight down. Mind you now, I'm watching over in the corner. And I just looked. And he stood there with that weight on his shoulder. And then I watched him, and he tried to press it up. And he couldn't get it. And he came back down, and he went back up a little bit more, and then it came back down. And then he just laid there. And I just watched. And he had gotten to a point where there was nothing he could do. He couldn't take care of the situation. He couldn't do anything. Finally, somebody came up and lifted the weight up off of him and took care of it. Look. I say that because look at this. He started out with a bang. He was so excited when he came in there. He started out, he lifted that weight up there, and he lifted up with some authority. But then it came down on his chest, and it was there. He started with a bang, and he ended with a fizzle. Look, he went to the gym to try to make himself better off. He went to the gym to make himself stronger. He went to the gym to make himself more fit. But instead, he ended up with more weight on his chest than he was able to handle. More weight on his chest than he was able to lift. It was the same problem that mankind had with the law. The reason for the law was to let them know that what they had to do to have a better relationship with God. And it was supposed to make them stronger worshipers. It was supposed to make them more fit to be in God's presence, but instead they ended up with all the weight of the law bearing down on them. And as a result, people would just pursue their own self-interest. Because in our flesh, y'all, we are weak. The student, the weight came down on his chest because he was weak. When Israel received the law, they couldn't do the things that were given in the law because the flesh was weak. And you know, even today, we are still too weak. The reason that you are here today is that I know it's because you see value in building and making your relationship with God even better. I know that matters to you. I know that it matters to you because we all want to be stronger worshipers. We all want to be more fit to be in His presence. But oftentimes we start off with a bang and we end up fizzling out because we're just too weak. Let me give you an example. Some of you, one day, some of you decided that you were going to join a ministry in the church. Because you looked around, I'm assuming this is the case, you looked around and saw there was a need and you said, there's a place for me, something that I can do to help meet a need that the church has. I can do something, I can contribute, I can add to it, and I can make myself it's a good thing. I want to commit myself to working for the Lord and to helping out them. That's the reason that you started out. But watch this. Over the course of time, suddenly you start looking for reasons not to go to practice. Right. Suddenly you start finding good reasons to not go to the meeting. I can't meet today because I bowled on that night. Instead of saying, I can't bowl on that night because I got a meeting. this one too. Sometimes when it's your day to serve, everything that preparation has been made for, and it's your day to serve, you don't even show up. I told you, I said it. Look, you're one of the starting five. The team is relying on you to be there, and you don't show up. Start out with a bang. But we end up fizzling out. You say, listen, I'm going to go to Sunday school. I'm going to attend Bible study because I want to build my relationship with the Lord. Now, look. The problem is that most people never really make Sunday school and Bible study a habit in their life. They don't incorporate it into their life. They'll give it a chance, but they'll pull back. They don't incorporate it into the fabric of their meeting. You know what I think? I think this. I think that maybe what we should do is charge tuition for Sunday school. Because maybe cheap. Make it free. People tell that it makes it cheap. Oh, if we don't do that, maybe we need to do. Maybe we need to have Bible study tryouts. And then you trying to make the Bible study team. Maybe that's. I'll tell you this. This is the truth of the matter. Because it got to a point in time when I began to take things kind of personal. I know I shouldn't, but this flesh is weak. I spent the time studying the lesson. I spent the time preparing the lesson. And then when I came in, and there was 3 or 4 people. And I was glad to have 3 or 4 people, and we did it just, but the truth of the matter is, I began to take it a little bit personal. Man, here's the reason why. Because when I first got here, and we had Bible study in the women's classroom, and we had to leave the women's classroom because there were so many people that they wouldn't fit in there, so we came into the sanctuary and fizzled. People were making sacrifices. They're leaving work early. Make sure they made it because they got to get there for Bible study. Now, I took it personal for a while, but then I know the Lord, God is so good. He lets you see things. Because look, even last couple of weeks, Reverend Duff had a class on how to study the Bible. And that first night, we was packed. I got jealous coming into the parking lot when I saw all those cars, and I thought somebody else got to be having a meeting because this many people can't make it to Bible study. Nonetheless, there it was down there. I sat in the back, I ain't say a word. No, that's not why I didn't say a word. But look, I sat back there and I said this. I said, let's see what happens. It was 4 sessions. The first session, packed. The last one, you could sit back, take up 2 or 3 spots. Because we fizzled. We fizzled. It happened. We started off with a bang, and then we fizzled out. Now, I could take it personal still and say, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. Look, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just Reverend Duff. Jesus went into the Garden of Gethsemane, took his disciples he jumped on that bench press with a bang. The weight came down on his chest with a boom. And then he laid there and fizzled out, y'all. He had no energy. He couldn't push it up. He had no power. He had run out of options. Y'all, he was just stuck. Somebody across the room, though, I remember hearing this. Somebody said, hey, somebody help him. And then somebody ran up behind him and they lifted the weight up off of his chest. Now, isn't it good to know that there's somebody out there concerned about you? Isn't it good to know that there's somebody out there who cares about you? Somebody saw him in trouble and they sent help. Somebody sent someone to do for him what he could not do for himself. Somebody lifted the weight off of his chest. I don't know what he said to them. I don't know what he said to them, but sometimes the only thing you can say is thank you. What else can you say to express your gratitude when you're at no way? What else can you say to let them know that you appreciate their kindness? Sometimes, y'all, the only thing you can say is thank you. I'm saying all this because I've just explained to you why I love Jesus so much. Why I want to spend my eternity in his presence. Because I can tell you this. Because I had fizzled out. I had fizzled out. I had fizzled out, but he was concerned about me. I had fizzled out, and he did for me what I could not do for myself. I had fizzled out, and the time came in my life when I realized that I had no energy, when I realized that I had no power, when I realized that I was out of options, when I realized that I was stuck, and Jesus came and rescued me. I'm just letting you know that just having him there makes a difference. What the law could not do, God did. And watch this. After Jesus did what he did, there was nothing left to be done. I gotta let that sink in there for a second. After Jesus did what he did, there was nothing more that needed to be done. Now look, I was carrying a heavy sin burden. And Jesus took the weight of my sins and he put it up on his shoulders. Jesus, he carried my heavy sin burden into the Garden of Gethsemane. When he got down on his knees and he prayed, while he was praying, he was carrying my heavy sin burden. And he was carrying my heavy sin burden when Judas betrayed him. When Judas betrayed him with that kiss, he held my heavy sin burden when he stood before Pilate as an innocent man. He was carrying my heavy sin burden when they put a crown of thorns on his head. He was carrying my heavy sin burden when they mocked him and spit on him and hit him. He was carrying my heavy sin burden when they beat his body to a bloody mess. He was carrying my heavy sin burden when they nailed his hands to the cross, when they nailed his feet to the cross. He was carrying my heavy sin burden as he was hanging there between two thieves. And when he bowed his head and he died, God, he was still carrying my heavy sin burden. Amen. And when he died, he paid the price for my sin burden. Amen. Y'all, he died on Friday. Saturday, if you would go to the bottom tomb, his body would still be there. But early on Sunday morning, church, early on Sunday morning, God raised him from the dead, and my Jesus got up with all of the power. The power that I did not have, he had all of the power of heaven and earth in his hands. So why do I love Jesus? Why do I love Jesus? If you ask me why, my answer would start out saying, oh, how I love Jesus. Well, why is it that you love him? Oh, how I love Jesus. But after you ask me a question, I need you to tell me, why do you love him? Oh, how I love Jesus. Because he's first. He's first. Oh, he's first. He's first. Love me. Oh. And isn't it good, church? Isn't it good to know that he won't let you go? He loves you. He's holding you. And he will not let you go. You see, I know this. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for a friend. He won't let you go. Because I'm persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor power, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, if I've got anything, any other creature, nothing is able to separate us from the very love of God, which is in Christ. Why do you love him, Will? Because every time I turn around, he blesses me. Every time I turn around, he keeps blessing me. When I'm right, he keeps blessing me. When I'm wrong, he keeps blessing me. Because he loved me so much. He loved me so much that he died for me. And I've just come to believe that having him there, having him in my life, makes a difference. God bless you, church.